Tonight, the first in the nation primary for the 2016 election is coming to an end, but our coverage is just beginning. New Hampshire's polls are closed and the results are rolling in.
We'll be here all night with the votes and the voters, the winners and the losers, and we'll try to advance the story. What does New Hampshire mean for the candidates as the election year dynamic wraps up?
Don't go anywhere. BUTV's coverage of the 2016 New Hampshire primary starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to BUTV's live coverage of New Hampshire primary election night. I'm Alicia Machado.
And I'm Brandon Lewis. We're going to go to Donald Trump right now, who is the projected winner of the Republican primary. Let's go to Manchester.
I heard the end of Bernie's speech and I heard some of the beginning. No. First of all, congratulations to Bernie. In all fairness, we have to congratulate him. We may not like it, but I heard parts of Bernie's speech. He wants to give away our country, folks. He wants to give away. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let it happen. I don't know where it's going with Bernie. We wish him a lot of luck, but we are going to make America great again, but we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to beat China, Japan. We're going to beat Mexico at trade. We're going to beat all of these countries that are taking so much of our money away from us on a daily basis. It's not going to happen anymore. We have the greatest business people right now in the world. They call me all the time. They want to be involved. We have political hacks negotiating our deals for billions and billions and billions of dollars. Not going to happen anymore. We're going to use the finest business people in the world. We are going to do something so good and so fast and so strong, and the world is going to respect us again. Believe me.
And as you can see, Donald Trump is the projected winner of the Republican New Hampshire primary, and he hopes to take that momentum with him to South Carolina.
Now on the Democratic side, we're going to take it over to Sanders. He's at his headquarters in Concord right now.
Shortly after the polls closed, Secretary Clinton called and was very gracious in her congratulations. I thank her for her call, and I congratulate her and her supporters for the vigorous campaign they ran in New Hampshire.
Behind Bernie, we're going to go now to Hillary Clinton. This was recorded earlier this evening with her speech in Southern New Hampshire University.
Here's what we're going to do. Now we take this campaign to the entire country. We're going to fight for every vote in every state. We're going to fight for real solutions that make a real difference in people's lives.
Now let's get some numbers on the GOP side of the race. Actually, we're going to do some Democratic numbers. Right now, 48% of the precincts are reported. Bernie Sanders is the projected winner. We've known that since 8 p.m. earlier this evening. Hillary Clinton came in second. She did give her concession speech earlier this evening, also with 38% of the vote. And on to the GOP numbers. As we just saw, Donald Trump again is the projected winner of the New Hampshire primary on the Republican side. John Kasich, we're also learning, the Associated Press reported that he is the second place winner with 16% of the vote. And Ted Cruz is coming in third place with 12% of the vote. 47% of the precincts are reported at the moment.
We also have BUTV reporters stationed all over New Hampshire to bring you the latest from the candidates' primary night locations. Let's go to one right now. BUTV's Aaron Dixon is reporting from Trump headquarters in Manchester tonight. All right, thanks, Aaron. We'll go back to that feed a little bit later in the night.
Now, New Hampshire is a small state with just under 1.4 million people in 10 counties. But which county should the candidates look out for? Strafford and Cheshire counties boast a strong number of 18 to 24-year-olds, a demographic important to Bernie Sanders. Well-to-do areas like Hillsborough and Merrimack may sway towards establishment candidates like Kasich or Rubio. Belknap and Grafton counties consist of the state's oldest residents, and Donald Trump has historically been popular with those older voters.
Industry will not continue.
So right now we're going to go back to Donald Trump, who is in Manchester right now at his headquarters.
That's so beautiful. What a group of people. You know, and on top of this group, we have thousands of people outside that can't even get in. That's what we have. Thousands of people. Healthcare. We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. It is a total disaster. We're repealing and replacing Obamacare. It's gone. We're getting rid of Common Core. We're going to educate our children locally. We educate our children locally. We are going to preserve our very sacred Second Amendment. There's not going to be any more chipping away at our Second Amendment. If we had protection in California recently and so many other places, you could even look to Paris. Paris has the toughest gun laws in the world. France has the toughest gun laws in the world. These animals go in, they start shooting 1, 2, 3, 130 people, with many people horribly wounded right now in the hospital. If there were bullets going in the other direction, believe me, it would have been a whole different story, folks. But nobody had protection.
That was Donald Trump at his headquarters in Manchester. And now we're going to go to the Democratic side. Justin Soto is live at the Bernie Center headquarters. Justin's on the phone with us. Justin, what's going on there?
Hi, guys.
We must and will destroy ISIS, but we should do it in a way that does not put our young men and women in the military into perpetual warfare in the quagmire.
Hearing his name the entire time, and the energy was completely contagious. He brought up his usual characteristics like education, socialism, the 1%. You know, those are the things that he usually brings up when he's rallying, and he did that again today. He congratulated Hillary Clinton, and he said he was excited to move on to the next two states, which are Nevada and South Carolina, and we're certainly going to be seeing him there. This was a great event, and it was truly a victory lap for him.
Justin in Concord tonight. Justin, thank you. And we're going to go to Karishma Desai, who is here in studio with some analysis.
Thanks, Brendan. I'm Karishma Desai, and I'm here with BU College of Communication Dean Tom Fiedler, who previously reported for the political column in the Miami Herald. So Donald Trump is leading with 34%. That is a double-digit lead compared to his opponents. What can explain this?
Well, it's clearly a bounce back from Iowa. He was humiliated a little over a week ago, came in second place, and this, I think, will push that back. How to explain it? I think if you look at the exit polls, and what you have is an electorate that is angry, an electorate that feels that Washington is in need of a massive upheaval, and he is the disruptor, and I think that's what we saw tonight.
Could the same be said about Bernie Sanders and the Democrat side?
Absolutely. That's the common thread that goes between the Republican and the Democratic side. In effect, what you have is the two rebels have taken the village today, and it's really quite a statement about the future of politics in this country. The question is whether the establishment on each side, the Republican side, the Democratic side, will be able to get their footing in the future.
Right. So we're also seeing Kasich and Cruz fighting for second. Any surprises there?
Maybe the surprise is John Kasich. It was he probably represents what would be considered the middle of the Republican Party, the establishment party. He was in a pack, I think, going into it this week with Jeb Bush, partly with Marco Rubio. The fact that he has perhaps broken through a little bit, I think, is a bit of a surprise. Again, but where does he go after New Hampshire? Will he be able to repeat in South Carolina? It's a real question mark.
Since you mentioned it, what can we expect for the GOP candidates going forward in South Carolina?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised to see Trump also have a strong following there. I think his anti-Washington message will play very well. I would expect Ted Cruz might do well. The evangelical vote is a strong one there. Jeb Bush has always said that South Carolina is where he sees he'll build it. So we'll see if he can make it there.
Thank you. And back to Brendan and Alicia.
Right now, Kasich is going out on stage. We're going to go to him at his headquarters. As we stated earlier, Kasich, the Associated Press stated that Kasich is the second place winner in the GOP primary. Let's go out to his headquarters.
Can you ever win? And then, things are just, we're walking in a total obscurity up here. And Gordon Humphrey sends me an email. And he says, this is the hot plate that changed the world. Guys are sleeping on mattresses in the campaign headquarters, and they hold up a hot plate where they're eating their food. That's how you win elections. That's how you do it. And, of course, our great friend Tom Rath, the former Attorney General. He's been one of the best guys I could have. Where is Tom Rath? 17 years ago, I came here, and, I thought things were going okay. I wasn't getting a lot of attention, and I was standing in the kitchen, and I was talking to this lady, and I'm thinking, I've got myself a town chairperson here. I mean, this lady really, really likes me. And after about 15 minutes, she looked at her watch, and she said, when will the candidate get here? Can you tell us? But the guy that stuck with me for 17 years, Bruce Berkey. Where is Bruce? Bruce. Come on up here.
That was Kasich in Concord for us. Coming up, our election team will continue to churn out the latest results coming out of New Hampshire. And Karishma Desai will speak with political analyst and BU professor John Carroll. We'll be right back.
All right, I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect, that's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Search Ready Kids at nyc.gov or call 311.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest. You still got it. I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back. Let's get you right to the latest results.
Let's check in on the Democratic side race once again. As stated earlier, Bernie Sanders is the projected winner of the Democrat primary in New Hampshire. We have 56% of the precincts reporting. He is the winner. Clinton came in second with 39% of the vote. As we saw earlier in the evening, she gave her concession speech and she'll be on her way to South Carolina. For the GOP side, Donald Trump is also the projected winner with 34% of the vote. The Associated Press also stated that John Kasich is the official second place winner with 16% of the vote, and we're still figuring out who's coming in third, fourth, fifth. Right now, Ted Cruz has 12% of the vote and is in third place. Jeb Bush, 11% of the vote. Rubio with 10%, Chris Christie with 8%. And right now, we have 55% of the precincts reporting.
Right now, we have a phone interview with Zachary Azam. He's a researcher at the University of New Hampshire's Survey Center.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hello, Zachary. Thanks for joining us tonight.
What's up?
Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Now, can you tell us, what are the polls predicting and how do they work with the results that we've seen so far tonight?
So it was pretty interesting because the results ended up pretty close to what our polls were showing. So we had at our final poll, Bernie Sanders up 61 to 35%. And as we're seeing, there's about a 20-point lead for Sanders right now. And, we were kind of on the high end as far as that race was concerned with Sanders' support. But it appears that the high turnout helped him as far as young voters turning out, new voters, where he was leading those categories by about 88%. And then on the Republican side, Donald Trump, we had him consistently in the low 30s, and it looks like that pretty much held up. There was a lot of talk going into whether or not Donald Trump's support would be real. In Iowa, there certainly was the case where he underperformed his numbers, but we were pretty convinced that he was going to end up in the low 30s, as he had the lead among people who are definitely decided who they're going to vote for.
All right, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Zachary.
And now we're going to go to Donald Trump headquarters, where Erin Dixon is live with the report. Erin, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Trump just finished finishing his acceptance speech here in Manchester a few moments ago. Now, it was about a 15-minute speech, but he covered a lot. Now, he talked about the economy, jobs, securing the border, and ending Obamacare. He covered a lot of information in a short amount of time, and the crowd was absolutely eating it up. They interjected a few times with "We love you, Trump" and USA chants, and it was just a really exciting way to end the night for the Trump campaign. So the crowd is now beginning to disperse a bit, but the party's not over here at Trump headquarters. We'll keep covering it live here for you on BUTV 10. Reporting from Manchester, New Hampshire, I'm Erin Dixon.
Erin in Manchester for us tonight. Erin, thank you.
2016 marks the 100th year for the New Hampshire primary. Though it wasn't always as big of a deal as it is today, to mark this anniversary, BUTV reporter Christina Galato takes us through the results of the primaries in the past and finds out what made New Hampshire first in the nation.
100 New Hampshire primaries in the making. By the people, for the people. Until 1916, New Hampshire politicians were selected by other powerful politicians. Progressives changed that.
It was designed to increase the role of the people in choosing who their nominees would be.
So, why New Hampshire?
It really wasn't a big deal for the first several decades. Nobody paid attention to the New Hampshire primary.
That is, until 1952, when television came on the scene and stations were seeking content.
They said, well, let's go send some film crews up to New Hampshire to cover this quirky little primary up in this little cold New England state, and it became a television event.
It was a hit. Even in 2016, the height of the 24/7 televised elections, this state demands a ground game.
And I believe we've got the best ground game here in the state of Reagan, the Reagan coalition of conservative Democrats, of faith-based voters, of blue-collar workers coming together and uniting here behind Senator Cruz here in New Hampshire.
1952 marked the start of another trend. Every presidential candidate who won the White House won first in New Hampshire. That's 10 cycles. Voters broke that cycle in 92.
Bill Clinton finished second, George W. Bush finished second, and Barack Obama finished second in 2008.
While the content of past elections have changed,
immigration, Obamacare, foreign affairs.
the age-old need for New Hampshireites to get to know their candidates won't.
So, like, one of the old jokes about New Hampshire is that, and a reporter sees somebody outside of an event, they ask him, "So, you just saw Senator Jones speaking today. Are you going to vote for him now?" And he said, "Well, I've only met him 3 times. I'm not sure yet."
Reporting for BUTV 10, I'm Christina Galato.
New Hampshire is first now, but for the first 15 years of holding state primaries, there were a handful of other states that voted before New Hampshire. It was only because those states changed to a caucus system that New Hampshire was left as the first in the nation primary, only by default. Now we're going to go over to Karishma Desai here in studio with a special guest for some analysis. Karishma?
Thank you, Brandon. I'm now here with mass communication professor John Carroll, who is also a political analyst. So Hillary Clinton, some people may say that Bernie Sanders only won because, New Hampshire is a neighboring state, but still, she had a pretty rough night with a 20-point deficit. What does this mean for Clinton moving forward to South Carolina?
Yeah, 20 points is what Barack Obama would call a shellacking. And I think that it's a tough night for Clinton. And it's interesting, Dean Fiedler was talking earlier in the show about South Carolina being the firewall. Interesting memo went out earlier this evening from the campaign manager of Hillary Clinton saying, let's forget February, let's concentrate on March, because February only 4% of the delegates are chosen. March, 56% of the delegates are chosen. And that says something perhaps about what they anticipate might happen in South Carolina. Bernie Sanders comes out of New Hampshire with a lot of momentum. And I think that if he can catch on in South Carolina and put on a respectable showing, I think that's going to be a real damaging direction or trend for Hillary Clinton. So I think that they're looking to regroup. I wouldn't be surprised if they shake up the campaign a little bit. I think that they've gotten a real rude wake-up call. They were thinking that they might close that gap, and it turned out that it actually widened a bit tonight.
So far, Iowa and New Hampshire have had a large majority of white voters. Mm-hmm. And now with South Carolina having a large black minority of voters, how can Sanders pick up on those votes? Well,
one thing he's doing, he's meeting with Al Sharpton tomorrow in New York, so that's going to be interesting. Not sure how much clout Al Sharpton has down in South Carolina. The other thing is Hillary Clinton needs to somehow consolidate that support and firm it up. I think that there's a fluidity to this race. There was a poll that said 46% of voters in New Hampshire decided in the last 3 days who they were going to vote for. I think this whole race is so unusual on both sides, the Democratic and the Republican side, that I think that the predictable trends that we've seen in the past might not be so reliable at this point. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty.
Thank you, Professor
Thanks
Carroll.
for having me.
Nice hearing from you. Back to Brendan.
Thanks, Karishma, and thank you to Professor Carroll for being with us tonight to offer some insight. Now we're going to go back to some numbers. Let's start off with some Democrat numbers. 58% of the precincts reporting right now, and again, Bernie Sanders is the projected winner on the Democrat side with 59% of the vote, and Hillary Clinton came in second with 39% of the vote. On to the GOP, Donald Trump is the projected winner with 34% of the vote. Kasich, the Associated Press reported that Kasich is the official second place winner on the Republican side. Ted Cruz is currently in third place with 12% of the vote. In fourth, Jeb Bush with 11%, Rubio 11% also in fifth place, and Chris Christie just behind them with 8%. Rounding out the top 8, Carly Fiorina. We haven't heard much from her tonight. 4% of the vote, and Ben Carson all the way at the bottom with 2% of the vote. Again, 57% of the precincts are reported right now.
Now we're going to go over to some footage of Chris Christie.
That someone needs to stand up and fix the Social Security system and fix the Medicare system so that it doesn't fail them or bankrupt our country. And we came here to say that speaking your mind matters, that experience matters, that competence matters, and that it will always matter in leading our nation. That message was heard by a lot of folks. And it was stood for by a lot of folks here in New Hampshire. Just not enough. Not enough tonight. And that's okay. For the people who have known me for a long time, and there's a lot of folks in this room who have, I have both won elections that I was supposed to lose, and I've lost elections I was supposed to win. And what that means is you never know.
Beyond the winners and losers, it's important to know who the voters favored and why. That's where exit polling comes into play. Exit polls are polls taken immediately after voters leave a polling location. It provides an early indication of where candidates stand prior to the release of the official results.
We have a great photo together already.
Yeah. This guy's a great guy. We make a couple of what I don't know, but
and now we're going to go to Erin Dixon, who is at Donald Trump headquarters right now in Manchester. Erin?
My feet just thawed.
Same thing. Unbelievable. Thank you, man. It's all good. All good, my life is good. We're going to make America great again. We are. I'm waiting for the day that we make America great. I'm a veteran, too. Right there.
We'll come back to Erin a little bit later in the segment. Hillary Clinton continuously lagged behind Bernie Sanders in polls going into tonight's vote in New Hampshire's 2008. Clinton did in fact win New Hampshire, defeating Barack Obama, but obviously did not make it to the White House. Max Rodriguez is at Clinton's headquarters. Right now, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back to him a little bit later.
You sure you don't want some? It's chamomile. Listen, you are extremely terrifying. Just the scariest undead subhuman thing on TV, and I really mean that. But I am worried that you could give my kids nightmares if they see you, so I'm gonna have to block you. So that's it. Oh, and tell the zombies they're blocked too.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Me dijeron que no debía soñar. Me llamaron pedazo de basura y juraron que eso es todo lo que llegaría a ser. Dijeron que una botella no podría ver el océano. Ríndete. Regresa al basurero. Pero no les hice caso. Le abrí paso. Y ahora estoy aquí. Soy lo que siempre quise ser.
Welcome back to BUTV's primary night coverage. We're about 2.5 hours after the polls have closed. Now we'll be going over to Erin Dixon, who's live at Trump headquarters. Erin, tell me, what's the scene like out there?
I feel ugly.
Are you ready?
You ready?
Hi guys, I'm here with Trump campaign volunteer Paul Franklin. Paul, tell me, what does this night mean for the campaign?
Well, this might means for the campaign that the people are coming together. New Hampshire showed that there's a unity for Donald Trump, his organizational skills, his deal making, how he's going to treat the economy, how he's going to treat the borders. And I believe this is going to be a power statement to the rest of the country to move this campaign forward. And states that maybe aren't going to vote for Donald Trump will turn around and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe I have to listen to this guy. I think it's a powerful statement.
Okay, so you're feeling good going into South Carolina.
I feel absolutely fantastic.
So I'm just adding.
Great. And how did the day go? You know, was it?
Well, the day was fantastic. I'm a volunteer, and I was at the polls, and I was showing people signs, and I was handing out bumper stickers, and I was making people feel good for their vote for Donald J. Trump.
Great. With Paul Franklin here at the Trump headquarters reporting for BUTV 10, I'm Erin Dixon.
All right, thanks, Erin.
And listen to what Bernie Sanders had to say earlier this evening after he found out he was the winner of the New Hampshire primary.
Shortly after the polls closed, Secretary Clinton called and was very gracious in her congratulations. I thank her for her call, and I congratulate her and her supporters for the vigorous campaign they ran in New Hampshire.
Again, Bernie Sanders, the projected winner of the Democrat New Hampshire primary. Now we're going to go to Hillary Clinton, who gave her concession speech also earlier this evening.
Here's what we're going to do. Now we take this campaign to the entire country. We're going to fight for every vote in every state. We're going to fight for real solutions that make a real difference in people's lives.
And that was a little tidbit from Hillary's concession speech. As one of the first primaries, New Hampshire generates more momentum for the candidates. But before we go on to predict any turnout, we need to understand precisely how this small state votes. BUTV reporter Chen Chen tells us more.
I'm a Hillary supporter, so I was hoping she would get a little bit more so far, but we don't know. It's not over yet, so maybe she'll come in strong.
A group of BU students watched the Iowa caucuses with their political science professor Monday night. If the Iowa caucuses cut the ribbon for the 2016 presidential campaign, the New Hampshire primary rings the bell of attention as it is the first primary election.
Going first means that, other states look to you. Candidates that don't do well in those two states, generally their campaigns end. So it's a lot of responsibility. It's also a really big advantage for those states economically.
And voters invest a lot of time and energy in candidates as well.
That somebody says to their friend, "Who are you going to vote for?" The name of the candidate, maybe Bush or maybe Clinton, and the person replies, "Oh, I don't know. I've only met him or her twice."
Unlike the rest of the country, New Hampshire is small. Population 1.3 million, 94% of them white.
So it's an unrepresentative state demographically, but it's a small state where face-to-face campaigning still really matters. And it is a state that goes sometimes Democratic, sometimes Republican.
What's tricky is that New Hampshire has a semi-open primary. Independent voters can choose to take either a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot. After voting, they can re-register as independent. 40% of the New Hampshire people regard themselves as independent.
But independents are very important because we don't know for sure which primary the independents will choose to vote in. And then will any people cross over?
Although it's a relatively complicated game, the rules in New Hampshire have largely worked. For BUTV, I'm Chen Chen in Boston.
Now, Ted Cruz is in third place behind Trump and Kasich. We're going to go to Hollis, New Hampshire, to his headquarters.
The word donate to 55022. We are here because of you. Your passion for our nation, your commitment to rebuilding our military, to standing with our soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines and Coast Guardsmen, and to honoring our veterans and keeping this nation safe. The most important question in this race is who is prepared to be Commander-in-Chief.
Now, Ted Cruz came out big last week in Iowa. Right now, he's struggling, currently in third place in New Hampshire. We're going to go to Karishma Desai here in studio with some analysis.
Thanks again, Brandon. So, Trump and Cruz, they have spent considerably less on TV advertisements in New Hampshire when compared to their opponents, but they seem to be on the top. What explains for this?
It's an interesting time for television ads. About $100 million was spent in New Hampshire on TV ads. Traditionally, television ads have been the big megaphone. You can do a lot of things on the internet. You can organize, you can mobilize, you can raise money. But when you wanted the big megaphone to go out and deliver your message to the widest possible audience, television was the way you went. The people who spent the most were Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, Marco Rubio, John Kasich, and their super PACs. They finished in the middle of the pack. Donald Trump spent a little bit on advertising, spent a lot of time on social media, was really good at using Twitter, Instagram, those kinds of platforms to get his message out. I think I saw today that he's picked up 25,000 Twitter followers a day since he announced his candidacy. So I think that they found an alternative route to deliver their messages to the public. And television advertising doesn't seem authentic, seems establishment, seems a little bit forced at this point, and I think that people don't react to it the way they used to.
Since you mentioned establishment, and I spoke with Dean Fiedler earlier about this, we're seeing Bernie and Trump pull out with large numbers. Is this just disdain towards the establishment, or is there an increasing polarization with our views?
I think the public in general is tired of the dysfunction of government. They look at government and they see people who are intractable, who don't want to compromise, people who are not getting things done. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are both running on platforms of being against big money, being for a different kind of government, for overturning kind of the status quo. And I think they've really struck a chord with a lot of people, both on the left and the right. People who say, you know what, this doesn't work, this system is broken, so we need someone who can come in here and make changes and be effective.
Thank you again. And we're going to go back to Brendan, who has more with the Clinton supporter.
Karishma and John Carroll in studio for us. Thank you. Now, I think we have somebody on the phone from the Clinton campaign. Sorry, we actually have some footage from a Clinton supporter earlier today. Take a listen.
As a supporter of Hillary, I'm happy it wasn't a 30-point margin like the polls said 2 weeks ago. And I remind people, this is not a 2-round boxing match, it's a 12-round boxing match.
Okay. What can you tell me about her speech today?
Oh, I thought it was very gracious, very good, and I was glad to hear that she's already had called Sanders and congratulated him, and that's important. Because as Democrats, we will need Sanders and his supporters in the general election.
So you're very hopeful that she's going to...
Well, I know who the Democratic Party is in this country. Nevada on the caucuses on February 20th, she will win. South Carolina on February 27th, Hillary win. And March 1st, Super Tuesday, Hillary win both. However, this race will go all the way through California June 7th. Sanders will end up with 1,400 delegates. She will get the nomination. He will campaign for her. I guarantee it.
Can you tell me the reasons why you are back after Clinton?
Why back in Clinton? Well, I've known the Clintons since 1978. I appreciate all their public service to this country. I appreciate the 8 great years that Bill Clinton did as president. I appreciate the 6 years she did as Secretary of State, and I want a woman president.
Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the latest numbers. Over on the Democratic side, again earlier today, Bernie Sanders declared the winner. Now with 64% of precincts reporting, Bernie Sanders has 59% and Hillary Clinton trailing behind Bernie with 39%. Over to the GOP side with 62% precincts reporting again, we see Donald Trump in the lead with 34%, John Kasich in second with 16%, and Ted Cruz with 12%. Next is Jeb Bush with 11%, Mark Rubio 10%, and Chris Christie with 8%. And Carly Fiorina has 4%, Ben Carson trailing behind with just 2%.
Now we learned Donald Trump was the projected winner all the way at 8 p.m. Let's take a look back at his speech from earlier tonight.
will be the Democratic winner. We make that projection on the basis of the exit poll information we have received. We also make that projection on the actual numbers, the actual votes that have already been tallied. All of the polls in those states, are now closed. Let's take a look at the pictures right now from Donald Trump headquarters. You can see they're beginning to get the word. They are ready to celebrate right now. Donald Trump headquarters, Bernie Sanders headquarters, they've got the word as well. The CNN projections, Trump is the winner in New Hampshire. Bernie Sanders is the winner in New Hampshire. The Republican race, the Democratic race, obviously a lot of excitement right there. The polls apparently were very accurate. On the basis of the actual numbers, though, and the exit polls, we have those projections. Let's go to Dana and Jake. Jake, this is a moment that Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump have been waiting for.
What a stunning, stunning moment, Wolfening.
And it looks like a very packed house for Trump earlier this evening. Joining us now by phone is Bruce Berkey, a Kasich volunteer and the New Hampshire State Director during Kasich's last run for the White House. Bruce, thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, good evening, Alicia. Pleasure to be with you.
Now, we'd like to start off by talking about Kasich's ground game. What were the volunteers doing earlier tonight?
Well, I tell you, it's been a long grind for the ground team, and they've done a fantastic job. The 106 town halls that the governor did for the last 6 or 7 months now really created the foundation for people to get involved, and people to hear him and learn about him and feel comfortable with him. And so these people over the last 2 months have been knocking on doors, making phone calls, reaching out to their friends, their neighbors, within their community, and it became a real grassroots effort.
And how is this election different than the last election that you were involved with back in 2000?
I guess the easiest way to describe that, Alicia, is to use a term that the governor likes: night and day. It was very different. It was clearly this is a top flight campaign going on. People are recognizing and seeing the strength of his experience and his leadership and his passion and his conviction for issues and people. He had those same things back in 1999, but he just wasn't able to, get the same traction that he's been getting these last several months here in New Hampshire.
All right, Bruce, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We're going to go to a quick break right now, and we'll be back with more primary election night coverage after this.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Welcome back to tonight's coverage of BUTV 10's primary episode. Now, Brandon has the numbers for us.
We're in the home stretch now, and let's take a look at the numbers. Starting off with the Democrat side, we have almost 70% of the precincts reporting Bernie Sanders was the projected winner when the polls closed at 8 p.m. Right now, he's at 60% of the vote, and Clinton not really trailing far, 39% of the vote at the moment. Let's go to the GOP numbers. Trump, again, like Sanders, was projected the winner when the polls closed at 8. Right now, we have 68% of the precincts reporting, 34% for Donald Trump. Kasich was also declared the second place winner by the Associated Press. He has 16% of the vote, and Ted Cruz is at 12% in third place. Jeb Bush, 11% in fourth place. Rubio in fifth with 10%. Chris Christie in sixth with 8%. And Carly Fiorina, 4% in seventh place. And rounding it out, Ben Carson with 2% of the vote.
Now we're going to go over to some video at Trump headquarters in Manchester, New Hampshire.
We are going now to South Carolina. We're going to win in South Carolina. I love you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now that was a little video of Trump with his victory. Now we're going to go over to Jeb Bush, who's also in Manchester, New Hampshire. Take a look at that.
I don't create the expectations, but I feel good about where we are. We've knocked on over 100,000 doors, large number of volunteers that identified voters. Now we're trying to get them out to vote. So I feel good about where we are. But as you know, this is a volatile year. I mean, a lot of people make up their mind. I was in a diner and a person said they hadn't made up their mind.
That was Bush in New Hampshire earlier today. And now for our second special guest, veteran political reporter and the Dean of BU's College of Communication, Dean Thomas Fielder, is here to answer some of our questions about the candidate and some of the finer points and issues that have come up going into tonight's primary. Karishma Desai is here in studio with Dean Fielder.
Thanks again, Brendan. I'm back with Dean Fiedler. So Marco Rubio, he finished solid at number 3 in Iowa, but now he's at number 5 behind even Jeb Bush.
Right.
How much do you think the debate could have affected these numbers?
Well, apparently it's a great deal. Among the late deciders, and could be as many as 50% of the Republican voters decided over the past several days, including watching that debate. To see him fall from, he was the rising star after Iowa, the one everybody was looking at, and to see him now finishing possibly behind Jeb Bush, behind John Kasich, and behind Ted Cruz, it could be a very serious blow to his, at least the image he had of being the rising star.
And on the Democrat side, Hillary Clinton is struggling to get young women votes. She's losing them to Bernie Sanders. What could explain for this?
Well, that's really a very fascinating question, and particularly among young women, and quite a controversy over the weekend when Gloria Steinem, among others, came out and suggested that, I think quite inappropriately, that young women were going where the boys are, and the boys were with Bernie. Of course, that was an insult and got pushed back. But I think there's a larger question there, that Hillary Clinton is not seen as the figure that's breaking barriers now, and maybe there's a sense that Barack Obama broke the barrier and Hillary Clinton is not the one to do it. It'll be an interesting one to explore over the rest of the campaign.
Could this spell deja vu for Hillary Clinton?
Well, it certainly feels like deja vu, except the reverse was in 2008 she had lost Iowa, won New Hampshire. Now it looks like she's had 2 in a row. But again, there's a long, long race to go. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And the election calendar becomes much friendlier to her as we go forward. So she could find her footing. It could be a slugfest.
Thanks again, Dean. Back to Brandon.
Now, the women's vote is a critical factor in the New Hampshire primary. In 2008, women helped Hillary Clinton pull off an unexpected victory over Barack Obama in New Hampshire. But this year, as BU alum and CNN reporter Gary Tuckman reports, Clinton has her work cut out for her, especially with young women.
A college gymnasium with many young women, self-described progressive Democrats, people Hillary Clinton wants and needs for her presidential bid. But these female millennials aren't here for Hillary Clinton. They're here for Bernie Sanders.
I would like to see a woman in the White House. Hillary Clinton, no.
Entrance polls taken at the Iowa caucuses showed Democratic women under the age of 30 favored Bernie Sanders by an overwhelming margin.
A lot of what I hear Bernie Sanders speaking about is for college kids and helping them out once they graduate.
What we're talking about is free tuition at public colleges and universities.
The free tuition proposal resonates for many young women who are choosing Sanders over Clinton. But those here have other reasons too.
Just because somebody is a woman doesn't necessarily mean that they're right for the job. I want to make sure that they have the right, qualifications and the right standards and they have the right morals.
I don't really trust in what she has to say. It's like I don't really believe in her.
At this rally at New Hampshire's Daniel Webster College, and a later rally at a Manchester theater, there are other reasons young women who very much want to see a woman president say they are willing to wait for that.
At the end of the day, you have to vote for your interest, and right now Bernie just fits my interests better than Hillary does.
Susan Elsass is over 30 years old, the dean of students at the college, and supporting Hillary Clinton.
It's just time.
So what do you say to the younger women you see here who say, no, it's not her time?
Yeah, that's confusing to me. I'm excited that they're involved in the process, but it's very confusing to me, and I don't understand what those issues are and how Hillary hasn't been able to make that case to those women.
But some of the young women here say she has made her case, and it's probably not enough.
I would love to see a woman in the White House. I don't know if Hillary Clinton is that candidate. I don't know if she is that person to break that barrier because of the different strings that come attached with Hillary.
The United States turns 240 years old this July 4th. And after 2 centuries and 4 decades of independence, not only has there never been a female U.S. president, there has never been a female Democratic or Republican presidential nominee. History will one day be made. But it's clear there are many female Democrats who are very loyal to the party who prefer it not be this year.
Gary Tuckman, CNN, Nashua, New Hampshire.
Feminist Gloria Steinem and former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright campaigned for the woman who would be the first female president. Albright told young women voters that there's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other.
Now let's take a listen to some interviews with New Hampshire voters. We'll see how they decided to vote and why.
Are you an independent voter? I am. Yes.
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 I am not.
So you vote for Donald Trump? Donald Trump.
I decided on Marco Rubio.
To vote for Bernie.
I went with Hillary.
I ended up voting for Marco Rubio.
When did you decide who you're going to vote for?
It's been decided a long time ago.
I actually made it last night.
Yesterday.
Today.
4:30 this afternoon.
Actually, when I was in the booth.
Can I ask when you decided to vote for Donald Trump?
When he decided to run for president.
Was there any one candidate that you knew that you didn't want to vote for in this campaign?
Trump.
We did not want to vote for Hillary Clinton.
What was the final deciding factor that led you to one candidate?
I'm just trying to think of the long-term success if elected.
I'm tired of big government.
I was hoping to vote for somebody that could unite the country.
I like the Republican Party.
It came down to who we didn't like.
Somebody that wants to make this country great again.
I think I know who you voted for.
Many different opinions, but everybody got their chance to have their opinion said tonight with the vote.
Erin Dixon is in Manchester, New Hampshire at Donald Trump's headquarters. Erin, what's new?
It's not even 11 o'clock here in Manchester, and the Trump headquarters have mostly cleared out. It was an early night and a decisive victory for Donald Trump, and I think that his campaign could not be more pleased. So now it's on to South Carolina and through the rest of primary season, where I think they hope to continue to build on this momentum coming out of New Hampshire. So wrapping up here at Donald Trump headquarters in Manchester, New Hampshire, for BUTV 10, I'm Erin Dixon.
And let's go over to some Democratic numbers for the New Hampshire primary. Right now, we have 70% of precincts reporting. Bernie Sanders is the projected winner with 60% of the vote. We found that out at 8 p.m. just as the New Hampshire polls closed earlier this evening. Hillary Clinton with 38% of the vote. And for onto the GOP side, just under 70% of precincts reporting. Donald Trump and John Kasich are the official top 2 winners. Ted Cruz is in 3rd place right now with 12% of the vote. Jeb Bush is at 11% in 4th place, Rubio in 5th, and Christie in 6th place. And to round out the top 8, Carly Fiorina has 4% of the vote, and Ben Carson has 2% of the vote. And now we're going to go to Karishma Desai one last time for some last analysis of the big night in New Hampshire. Karishma?
Thanks again, Brandon. Dean Fiedler, we saw a little bit about the independent voters. How influential were they to the results tonight?
Well, the independent voters are always influential in New Hampshire. It's meant 40% of the electorate, and they can decide on the election day which place to go, and they tend to go where the exciting race is. I do think what's interesting is what's the fate of the 3 governors in this race. It looks like we may have seen the end of Chris Christie, and however it comes out between Kasich and Bush, they're both drawing out of the same pool of Republicans. The question will be whether one of them will get out of the other's way, and then what will happen in the long run.
Right, it's interesting. The governors have not been doing so well. Even on the Democrat side, you had O'Malley who dropped out.
Yeah, very early on, which is really contrary to history. Governors have been always very successful in the past. Reagan, Carter, Bush, and Clinton himself. So this is in some ways a contrary election. In a lot of ways, New Hampshire is going contrary this year.
So going forward with the New Hampshire results, how will this affect the probable results from other primaries that are coming up?
Well, I think the question marks are, number one, can Hillary find her footing in South Carolina? If so, it's going to be a long race. I think with Jeb Bush, if he can stay where he is and he goes on to South Carolina, he might find a little bit of a footing. Can John Kasich find some support in the South? I think, again, Chris Christie is gone, and Donald Trump could sweep the whole thing, and then the Republican Party is going to have to come to grips with the fact he could be their nominee. A major revolution.
Thanks. Thanks again, Dean. And now we go back to Brendan.
There you have it, folks. The Republican candidate winner is Donald Trump by 13%, and the Democratic winner is Bernie Sanders.
Thank you so much for tuning in to BUTV 10's live coverage of New Hampshire primary night. Thanks again and have a great night, folks.